And joining me now is Dr. Keith Moeller. Keith is the founder and CEO of SilverCeuticals, the company we're going to be talking about today. And he has been dedicated. Nearly half of his life has been dedicated to the study and development of silver in the medical industry. He has a doctorate in naturopathic medicine, is an author on the subject of medicinal silver and its uses, which we're going to get into in great detail here, and has been a guest speaker at top organizations, including the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine and other medical conventions. Actually, our relationship goes back years. I can't remember the first year I met you, Keith, but welcome to the show.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, John. And as you know, we've been working with a lot of groups for a long time. In fact, at one point, I was asked by the U.S. Congress to stand before the U.S. Congress with my father and give them information on the use of nano-silver to help mitigate malaria, second leading cause of death on the planet by infection. And I know you and I have talked about that in the past. I also worked a lot with the U.S. military, with the Special Ops Medical Association and with William Beaumont Army Med, working on a few problems we had in the Middle East. So
Right.
we had a bug called Acinetobacter baumannii, and there were 8 different multi-drug resistant strains. And we actually developed a gel product that we still utilize today that was able to help eliminate that problem for soldiers in the Middle East. And it was published by the U.S. military. And we also did work on another bug there called leishmaniasis. And it was pretty cool. Those guys are some of the coolest people on the planet. They work so hard, they get so much done. And when we finished, they actually gave me a plaque and made me a member of the of SOMA, the Special Operations Medical Association, which I have on my wall to this day because I'm pretty proud of the fact that I was made an honorary member just to hang
Nice.
out with those guys. Pretty amazing stuff, but they work harder than any other group I know. So it's
Right.
a big deal.
Right. Well, my use of silver goes back only to about 2015, and I recall getting a sample of an earlier version of your Nano-Silver products from Expo West when we hooked up at Expo West there when I was interviewing
Yeah.
you at the show, and you gave me a sample of the product, and of course when you're at Expo West, there's a lot of samples, so. Um, it wasn't 215 when 215 was when I used it for the first time, but that wasn't the year that I got it from you. So it was before that, and I had forgot all about it. And I want to show a picture here. Oh, and by the way, for our viewers here, there's a great article. Another reason why we're doing the show is there's an article published in Total Health. Link below in the description of the show. It's about time we take care of our own. It's a phenomenal article. I'm going to get into it with Keith in just a moment, but I want you to understand how this relationship started here. I'm going to bring this up. So I'm a lifelong cyclist, as I mentioned off the top of the show, and um, I want to show this was in 2015. I had a bike accident. This was the day of the accident. Let me bring this up here. That's in San Diego. You can see the bike path in the background there. That bike path is the bike path from Imperial Beach out to Coronado. And that's just the knee where I hit, but this is even grosser. So this is the next picture I'm going to show you is my elbow. Pretty gross. I actually, this picture, I think if my memory serves, is about 3 days after I crashed, 3 or 4 days after I crashed. And yeah, so that's my knee. Here is my elbow. A little gross. I lost all the skin and the meat. You can't see it very clearly now, but on the day it happened, you could actually see my bone. And I started right away. Back up a bit. All right, so when I crashed, there was two ladies were driving by in a car. They slammed on the brakes, came to my assistance. A jogger coming down the track, he came to my assistance, and the ladies offered to drive me to the hospital, and I'm like, no, take me home, because I remembered I had the silver product. I thought, I got to try the silver now. I never had a reason to try the silver out, right? So, and you know me, I like to test everything. And so I get home and oh God, it was so painful cleaning everything out. But I put the silver on, put the dressing on, and it took, I can't recall exactly, but I think it was about a month. So this picture here, again, going back to this picture here was a few days after the accident. I mean, you can see how bad it is, right? I mean, it's pretty gross. Using silver, I couldn't believe how fast it healed, because this is what it looks like now. Where's the scarring? I got that little bump on the elbow there. That's it. That's all that's left. And that was my first use of silver. Was I happy? I was very happy. In fact, I'm actually silvering it right now. I got this one. I actually scratched my arm. Let me take this off here so you see it's an actual wound. I'm going to take the Band-Aid. Oh, that's healing up so nicely. Kind of gross now, but this was a big open wound there a few days ago, and now it's
mostly gone.
It's mostly gone. Now it's pretty much healed.
Yeah. Yeah, so, not a surprise. We do that a lot, right? And when you first crashed, we had a 24 ppm product that in the old company, and we were using it under an OTC claim, and we were able to heal up some stuff. And now we have it approved in Canada as an antimicrobial to kill things like MRSA and VRE and regular staph, E. coli, candida, all the nastiest of the bugs. Take about 10, 15-minute kill times. We filed with the US FDA for both OTC and prescription, and I think we're down to like one report. They requested one more rabbit study where we have to show that it doesn't cause any skin irritation, and then we're done. And then we can use it with both the animals and the humans. And mostly we've used human studies for the animal approvals, like in Canada and so forth. Instead of using animal studies for human approvals, we've been doing the opposite. But in Canada, we have a whole bunch of approvals now. I mean, we have the gel approved for not only wound healing and antimicrobial action, but we also just got it a label.
That's this.
Yeah, we just got a label registered on that product as a personal lubricant to eliminate yeast and other problems. So an antimicrobial personal lubricant, I don't know if that's ever happened before, but it also kills like odor-causing bacteria.
Well, I'm glad you told me that, because I've actually been using it for that purpose.
Yeah, it just works. I mean, somebody said to me, well, isn't that kind of off? I said, no, we're talking about keeping married people married and happy for decades, right?
Yeah.
So it eliminates a lot of issues. And we found that we could have got it approved probably for feminine use, but we said, look, if we can eliminate it on both partners at the same time, like a yeast, then it's gone. And everybody's happy, right?
I'm glad you got it approved for that.
And as you know, there's a number of naturopathic doctors who've written articles on that in like Australia, and also in the US, there's been a lot too. So, but I think the important part in the US, we're after the approvals under prescription and over the counter, which will give us things like direct claims on treatment of diabetic ulcers, septic ulcers, skin tears, surgical incision sites, grafted sites, right?
Right.
And we're after those now. Right now in the U.S., it's sold as a cosmetic, And until we get the clearances, then we'll upgrade the claims. But right now, we just say helps promote natural healing. And
Okay.
as you know, it does that in a big way. And in Canada, um, in the US, you really, even after your approval, they have a really hard time with saying things are a treatment. But in
Right.
Canada, it's approved directly as a treatment for things not only like cuts, burns, and wounds and skin infections, but
Right.
also skin affections, which gives us things like acne and eczema
Right.
and a lot of other things. So the gel, and also we make a serum for women's faces. The serum is really amazing because it has hyaluronic acid and and it has nanocollagen peptides as well as the silver. And
Yeah.
Canada,
Fantastic ingredients. Fantastic
yeah,
ingredients.
I mean it's like the who's who of the top serums without having the top serum type price. It's really inexpensive. And yet we did that on purpose so everybody could use it. But like in Canada, we're having incredible success on like acne and eczema and stuff like that. In fact, we finished about 55,000 clinical trials on dental procedures. And we're actually using that same facial serum in bone grafts. And
Wow.
those bone grafts are stunning because instead of using a saline, once they pull a tooth, you have to put little chunks of bone in there and then it heals up, right? And then you can put an implant in that place.
Right.
Well, those usually take an average of 30 days. And in Canada, where we have those approvals as an antimicrobial and wound healing agent, they're using it in the bone grafts, and we're healing those up in about 5 days. And they're able to put an implant in like day 28 instead of like 4 months later. So it's really pretty amazingly fun. The other thing they're doing right now is we just finished a clinical trial on the new toothpaste. And the
Yeah.
toothpaste, we use a silver. And then what we use is we use a coral calcium with it and then a xylitol. And the coral calcium can actually scrape the plaque off your teeth without hurting the enamel because it's harder than the plaque, softer than the enamel.
Right.
And the cool part is that when you brush your teeth at night and you spit it out, you don't wash it out, you leave it in, you give it all night to work. But when you wake up in the morning, it is crazy because your mouth is still squeaky clean. Unless you're
Yes.
on a CPAP, your mouth is still clean. And you know in one night that our tech works. I actually worked on and published a big study, an oral study with 5 different divisions of Texas Tech School of Med. And we did it on the toothpaste, an oral use, and we showed that we could wipe out the biofilms. And so that's published data. Anybody wants that, all they have to do, and any of the data that we talk about, all you have to do is request that from me. I'm
Hmm.
Keith at SilverCeuticals.com, and I'm happy to send it to you. So I think by FDA rule on a lot of those, if they make claims, which we won't talk about those things here, but if you want any of that hard data or scientific data, all you have to do is request it, and we're happy to send it to you. So, but you have to request it. So any
Right.
of the background data you'd like to see, we're happy to get you. But the important thing is that using like the toothpaste, you know in one night that it works.
Oh, yeah.
And if you want to see clinical trials, we have the clinical trials. We can show we can help heal up the teeth and gums, and we can do some extraordinary things. I just had an influencer that just showed the befores and after of her teeth, and I'll have to send that over to you so you can put it in. But if you see the befores and afters of her teeth after just 1 month of using that toothpaste, the first picture, they're very translucent. She has beautiful teeth, but they're really translucent. And the second one, a lot of that is already filled in. They're a lot whiter because the calcium is reforming on the teeth
Right.
and it just makes it whiter. It's not dyeing it. It's not it's not one of those things that bleaches it. It actually makes it whiter, but it does it by remineralizing or helping to remineralize the teeth. And you can visually see it, and it doesn't take very long.
Yeah, I
So
love it.
there's a lot of cool stuff. Even the liquid in Canada, 32 ppm, we're after wound care approval and using it as a wound wash to wash out wounds, right? Because we knew
Right.
that it helped them heal. And Health Canada came back and kind of said, well, we think that's stupid. And I was a little taken back. I thought, oh, okay. And they said, but if you'll put it back in as a wound healing agent, we'll approve it. Because they said that's what you're actually trying to do, is you're
Right.
trying to be an antimicrobial wound healing agent with the liquid.
Right.
And so we turned it back in and they approved it. So we have all the NPNs on all those uses.
Right.
So even the 32 ppm can be used in Canada full-fledged under antimicrobial claims as a wound healing agent for skin infections and skin affections, and even like pre-treatment for like acne and all that stuff, a facial wash or a toner. It's pretty cool.
So, Mike, I do have a question about another use, and that's because as I was getting ready for the show, I wanted to get all my accoutrements here that I've been doing and using silver for and with over the years. Um, Early in the last 3 years, for the particular reason I wanted to be careful, I purchased a nebulizer. So this is my nebulizer. It was about $100 on Amazon, and it was ranked medical grade. Medical grade. And so what I would, in case I came down with something, I wanted to be able to nebulize. And so all you do is you just I put some of the silver liquid in here, attach it to the mask, and the nebulizer turns the liquid into like steam, but it's not hot. It nebulizes the liquid.
Yep. Just
Nano-Silver.
makes it into a mist.
Yeah, it turns into a mist, and you just breathe it in. I actually do two things. I do the silver, and I do food grade hydrogen peroxide. Make sure you dilute food grade hydrogen peroxide properly, though, if you think about doing that. But that combination is just incredible. And the reason why I'm concerned about that is when I was younger, much younger, when I was in the military, in the Canadian military, I actually got pneumonia back-to-back winters. So I'm susceptible to pneumonia. So I don't take any chances when it comes to viruses. I won't take any chances.
Well, there's a mass amount of data out right now on virus and using a nebulizer. If you want any of that data, all you have to do is ask. But there's an amazing study out from the University of Florida, University of Tennessee, and University of Alberta. So we're talking about 11 different docs, PhDs, 6 different institutions, 3 of them major universities, and 3 of them hospitals. And in December of 22, they put out a big article on COVID, and they put a big article out on sinus infections and nebulizing silver for use against those. And because, we're talking about actual products here and stuff like that, we're not going to go into exactly what they said about that. But needless to say, all the data's there. And they say using it with a nebulizer was an amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
They give time frames. They give exactly how long it takes to eliminate different problems with that. But the good news is this isn't me or you giving out this data. This is major institutions. And I think the big part there is that, they say in the mouths of 2 or 3 witnesses, if I tell you something or you tell them something, that's a testimony, right?
Right.
But if you have 4, if you have 5, if you have 8, in this case 11 different doctors from 6 different institutions all signing data and putting it out saying, look, if you have this problem, do this. We can help you mitigate those problems. And this is how you do it, and this is exactly how you use it. And all that data, I think, is available in that paper that you and I were talking about. that was coming out of the Silver Use Institute. I think
Right.
all of that direct data is there. The other piece that's really important there, and we can talk about that more because under FDA rule, a sinus rinse or wash is not an FDA claim. Just rinsing out your sinuses is not an FDA claim.
Okay.
But it's a really big deal because this study that came out, and I believe that it was put out in August of 21, and it came out of 3 different countries. And there were 231 frontline docs, medical professionals working in the hospitals treating COVID patients. Now, this was not a study treating COVID patients. This was a study on the medical professionals trying to keep from getting COVID. So it's not a treatment study. But what they did in that is that they split the group in half. So there was 117 docs who did not use any Nano-Silver. Says they rinsed their sinuses out every day with like commercial products. And they gargled a commercial product like they would in any medical institution to try and keep from getting sick. And those docs had said it was a 9-week study in the spring of 2020, right? In the middle of COVID. And so this 9-week study in the spring of 2020, 117 docs in this group, they rinsed their sinuses out and they gargled, but not with Nano-Silver. 28% of them, over 28%, actually got COVID. So, and then the other half the study was 114 docs. And the 114 docs weren't using it as a treatment. We're not talking about treatment here.
No.
But you could do it with a nebulizer or a mister, right? What they did was they just rinsed their sinuses out with Nano-Silver. Just rinsed it out. That was all. Nasal rinse and as a gargle. So every morning they used it in the same study, same protocols. But in this case, the 114 used Nano-Silver and instead of the other commercial products. The Nano-Silver guys, the 114 docs, had a 1.8% of them that were infected. 1.8%. 15 times less infection rate in medical professionals just by rinsing out their sinuses.
So that would be two people on the Nano-Silver side of the study and 38 plus people in the non-Nano-Silver.
Yeah, what we're talking about is 117 people on the didn't use the Nano-Silver side and 114 people on the did use it.
Okay.
So we're talking about 231 frontline medical professionals up front, right? 231. So we're talking about a whole bunch in 3 different countries. 117 didn't use it. 28% of them got COVID. And the other side, 114 of these medical professionals used it every day, and 1.8% of them got sick. Right. It wasn't perfect, but it was amazingly good. And we're talking about now dozens, between the 2 studies, you're talking about dozens of medical professionals, right? And they're giving out this data. And so I think the important thing to take away from that with you and I is that, look, we have our own families. We have our friends. You know, how do you keep from getting these respiratory infections? Where there's a lot of them coming down the pipe. There's been a whole bunch of them in the past. And there's hard data on almost every single one of those viruses from major institutions. If you want data on any of those, all you have to do is request it from us. I'm happy to send you the peer-reviewed published scientific reports. In fact, there's one study out of Romania that covers 5 different areas. And one is antiviral action, antibacterial action, biotissue engineering, wound healing, and it even covers cancer. Those 5 areas. And it incorporates 432 peer-reviewed published studies. So this is a summary of literally hundreds of scientists actually doing their own part and putting out hard information. So when you talk about go with the science, there's a lot of it, right? And one of the other things that we probably ought to talk about just a little is the fact that there's a published study that is a human safety study. And that published study was done in cooperation with the US FDA. So it was a new drug study. And in that study, it showed that nebulizing Nano-Silver had no negative effect on any system of the body. None at all. No negative effect. And they used it every day at an ounce a day, a 10 ppm and a 32 ppm product. And with that, there was no negative action in any system of the body. Now, the FDA was part of that, so they know, in fact, that Nano-Silver in this form is actually safe because they were part of the study. It's peer-reviewed, published, available in PubMed. Anybody who asks a question, it's easy enough to do.
Well, here's something else. That's the liquid version. Now, what I told so many people during COVID that are using hand sanitizer crap, that toxic hand sanitizer, hand cleaner, every store, every place you went, gallons of this stuff. I try to explain to people that stuff is so toxic. It's just so toxic, and it's alcohol based. So if you're thinking in terms of, putting that on your hands because you think you're going to walk into a store and now your hands are going to be safe, well, it takes about 30 seconds soaked in alcohol for alcohol to kill a virus, if it does kill it at all. And when you use hand sanitizer, that alcohol is evaporating in like 2 or 3 seconds. So what you're basically doing is absorbing all the chemicals through your skin with absolutely zero impact for your health. And I said, but on the other hand, I said, if you take silver gel, you're really concerned and you're going out, then rub some gel in your hands, your kids' hands when they go to school, because you're always touching your face. So if you have the gel in your hands, how long is this good for?
Well, if you look at it, what we're filed with the FDA for in wound care is 3 full days of antimicrobial barrier protection. If you look at using a cosmetic version, you could say layer of protection. You wouldn't say antimicrobial. You just say it's a layer of protection. It gets on your hands. It can be a cleaning agent. It can help clean your skin for sure. Right. And we know that it has that layer of protection on there that can help keep you from picking up any of those other bugs. So we have to be a little careful with it. We're after, a number of approvals which will change that. But until then, we'll just be a layer of protection. Okay. And we know it has a residual ongoing ability. But in Canada, off-label for the OTC, you can say if you put it on there, it's fully antimicrobial. So depending where your audience, and I know you have audiences in both areas.
It's so funny that it's that way, right? When you think about it, you can, you say one thing in Canada, you're good. You say the same thing in the US, you're in trouble, and vice versa. And
yes,
I know
we have to be a little clear on where we're making what claims, right?
Exactly. And, the issue too is internet knows no borders, right? So somebody watching this in Europe, Australia, Ethiopia, you have to understand the regulations in each country. I'd only be concerned on the Candida version is in that I recall another product from a different company, not Silver, but it was Smart Women's Choice. Dr. Long retired medical researcher created the product when she was 94 years old. But Smart Women's Choice is birth control. It's a cream. So it's actually a soap, a kind of soap. And it comes in a little tube, tiny little tube. Just keep it in your purse and nobody even knows what it is. And then you just apply it before you have intercourse. like toothpaste. Just squeeze a little out and you apply it. And 100, well, you can't say 100%, but tens of thousands of women have used it that I know of that never had any pregnancy. So it's way more effective than birth control. And guess what? No hormones, no chemicals, no spermicides, no nothing. It's a fantastic product. It just changes women's lives. And she was doing pretty good with it. She was making it out of her home. And well, I believe the story goes, I'm actually going to be doing a show with the new company that's making and distributing the product now, but it's not in the U.S. anymore because I understand it, Walmart placed an order for it, or Walmart started to sell it. And as soon as Walmart picked it up, the FDA swooped in and labeled it a drug and said you have to do a full-on $100 million medical study. It's a soap. It's not a drug.
Yeah.
It's just a soap. One of her biggest customers were actually the women's health centers in Israel. And the doctors there, what they did is they had a lab test it. And I actually have the video. So I interviewed her. I actually interviewed her for hours. And they did under a microscope. They had to dilute the product quite a bit to get it to run on a slide. But what they did was they had sperm on a slide, and then they put a couple of drops. So you can see the sperm going like 1,000,000 miles an hour. And then when they put a couple of drops on the slide of the very much diluted birth control cream, as it came into the picture, you could see the liquid coming in. And as soon as it touched the sperm, they stopped. And they all clumped up. Like in 40 seconds, they were all sound asleep. And it just falls out.
The good news on us is
but here's the thing. So this is what relates to you in Canada and the US FDA. So what she did was she ended up there's no way she could do a massive drug study in the US and spend $100 million. So she sold it to some friends, a young couple in Costa Rica. So what they did was they took it into their health agencies like Health Canada. And in Costa Rica, it was approved so quickly and is available everywhere in pharmacies and stores, over the counter. I mean, you can get it anywhere, and they're shipping it to different countries. And now you have, with Silver in Canada, you're able to get your approvals here. And hopefully soon you get them in the US too for all these things.
I think it just takes a little while to get it in. But if we're talking about Canada specifically, and you're talking about Candida, right?
Yeah.
Candida is a form of yeast. It causes a whole bunch of problems. In Canada, we would have the ability, and anywhere you request the data, we can give it to you. But in Canada, we could actually make the claim that that personal lubricant could eliminate Candida in about 10 or 15 minutes. And it won't hurt the vaginal probiotics. We have data showing it won't hurt the lactobacillus. So we can keep the friendly flora intact. So we do no damage to it.
Right.
And that's a very important thing. But on the other side, we can show that we can eliminate a whole bunch of the pathogens that cause a whole bunch of problems, including any odor-causing bacteria. And so all of that data is all available. And the good news is in Canada, we can make those direct claims. I think we'll be able to get to them in the US, but we're after the major wound care one first, and then we'll go after those other ones. So first on our list is like diabetic ulcers and those who are all a huge problem. And so we'll keep after those, and hopefully we'll have that all done by the FDA. We met with them like 3 times already. We went through all the data. I think they're good with what we've submitted. They said we want one more study, and we said, okay, we'll get that done. And I think it's underway now. So we'll get that one. We'll get in. Hopefully we get that one cleared, and then we'll be on and off to the next one. The fun part is in the US, next month, it looks like about the end of next month, we'll bring out a safe, natural-based product that has no nasty chemicals in it, but will, under US FDA guidelines, be able to make direct OTC claims on a therapy for eczema.
Right.
And eczema is a really big deal because 1 out of every 5 kids have it. You and I have been talking about an article, and we'll get one done right away because we can make claims on it. It'll be good to have it out. We've done already a whole bunch of clinical type studies showing how fast we can mitigate the outward expression of it. And
Right.
I have one little girl. It was a really cool thing, but one little girl showed that in one night it took out most of the inflammation, most of the redness, and all the itch and the burn. And it was pretty cool. She was pretty stoked, and we're excited to bring that one out, and that'll be like next month. We've been working on it for a couple of years,
Right.
and now we'll hit the market with it under direct FDA OTC claims as therapy
Right.
for eczema. And when I looked at the drugs that are approved to treat it, they're pretty heinous. I looked
Oh,
at it,
they're
and
just,
most of them
yeah.
included things like death. And death seems to be pretty serious when you're just trying to treat your eczema, right? High blood pressure.
My stepdaughter has eczema, and I looked at the labels on this stuff that she's tried so many different things, and I'm like, oh my God, how could you put that in your body? Like, so yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on this.
You'll have it pretty quick. I mean, if I blink, I lose a month. So in about a month, it'll be out.
Well, you
And
brought
so
up another.
I'm pretty
You actually
stoked about it.
reminded me of another thing I did several years ago. I was hired to do. I was hired to go to Costa Rica and film a 10-day trip with a group out of New York, and kind of like a mini documentary for the health professional that was bringing her people down there to help them change their diets and get healthy. But day one, we're there, and it was like end of January. I think it was end of January. So you can imagine how white we were. We spent about 6 hours on the beach day one in Costa Rica. And we get back to the condo, our Airbnb, and we're getting ready to go for dinner. And I'm like, oh, I had brought a bunch of silver product with me to see if it would work on sunburn. And so I told everybody, hey, put this on. If you don't, I want to see how this works. And so everybody put it on. And we went for dinner, came back after dinner. We're sitting on the back deck, fighting off the monkeys that were trying to steal everybody's phones so they could throw them into the jungle. Smart monkeys. And that's what they do. If they see a phone, they're just like, man, they dart in like greased lightning, grab the phone and just throw it into the jungle and back into the tree looking for the next one. Ooh. Yeah. Uh, so
Hilarious.
we're sitting there, and then I thought, oh, when you push your arm or your skin, and you can see how white, the sunburn. And I do this. I'm like, what the heck? Hey, everybody, check your sunburns. The only people that had sunburns were in spots where they hadn't hit with the cream, the silver cream. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. I could not believe it.
Well,
I,
as you know, in Canada, we talked about that, but we can make a direct claim in Canada right now, putting out products for the mitigation of sunburn directly,
okay.
and claim that we can, full blown claims that we can treat it. And our average from lobster orange or red to fully healed has been about 3 days in the clinical trials. And we have a lot of data on that, but you can fix it, usually help naturally heal that tissue in about 3 days. In
Wow.
the US, it's a cosmetic. We help promote natural healing, but if we can pull off the FDA clearances we're after now, we could also make direct claims on mitigation of it. So hopefully by next summer,
Okay.
we'll have those out and be able to make those direct claims.
Right. Well, I'm making the direct claim. I'm making the direct claim because I could not believe I would, man, oh man.
It
Yeah.
works. It
It
works
works.
incredibly well. The
It works.
natural ability of it to heal is amazing because silver, one, Nano-Silver. We're not talking about colloidal or ionic form.
Let's go into that, because when I bring up this, when I ask people if they've ever heard of Nano-Silver, they go, "Oh I used colloidal silver before." I'm like, "No, not colloidal silver. It's Nano-Silver. What's the difference?"
I'd love to tell you about the different types of silver. As you can see, we've got a summary here, but it's really pretty easy. If you look down, so ionic forms of silver, often called colloidal silver or silver hydrosols, there's a bunch of names they call them, but they work only one way. They can build up in the body. It takes actually weeks for them to be excreted or eliminated from the body after you drink them or eat them. They do have antibacterial effects. They can kill bacteria, but they won't kill a virus and they won't kill a fungus. And they can cause inflammation. So they can actually do damage to the system by causing inflammation. And at about 2.5 parts per million, they start to kill the good bacteria in your gut. So they can actually harm your microbiome. And they stop working. So each particle can steal one electron, and then it's done. It's happy. It's of no good. And as you look on the right, you can see the difference between the triple action Nano-Silver. Works in 3 different ways. We can cover that in a different question, but it won't build up in your body. Has antibacterial effects, antiviral effects, antifungal effects, does help reduce inflammation in a big way, won't harm probiotics, and there's a bunch of studies on that as well. And it keeps on working because of the unique molecular structure of this silver nanoparticle. It can keep functioning again and again, kind of like the catalytic converter in your car. It keeps functioning, and this is how actually it goes. So they're covered, these nanoparticles are covered with an Ag404 molecule, and each one can still up to 8 electrons. It actually spins them, pulls it into the core, and then it can do it again and again and again. And so the first mode of action, when it says triple, is this mode of action where it has the ability to continue to steal these electrons. It's called catalytic action. And it's kind of like the catalytic converter in your car. But your car uses platinum. It takes these noxious gases and stuff, puts it through that catalytic converter. It neutralizes those, but really doesn't change the metal itself. It just keeps working. And so this particle is much the same. It just keeps working because of the way that it's put together. They also, in the second mode of action, it emits a frequency. It's the same as ultraviolet light. It's about 890 to 910 terahertz. And so in water, it can actually help eliminate bacteria and stuff it doesn't touch. It doesn't have to touch them to actually eliminate them. This resonant frequency goes out and can eliminate them without touching it. And the cool part is that it has no effect on your own tissue, your own cells. Causes no damage to those. It's non-cytotoxic. And third of all, it contains an electrostatic charge, which basically is an electric field surrounding the particle. And it can eliminate pathogens as well using that electric field. So I think those are the 3 general ways that this technology works. Where everybody else has a single shot, this nanotechnology is kind of like a self-loading machine gun. It keeps functioning, but it keeps functioning in a number of ways, which means that it's very difficult for any bug to become resistant to it because it has multiple ways it functions. Where regular antibiotics and regular silver, they can become resistant because they have only one mode of action. And so with additional modes of action, it makes it much harder for some bug to mutate around it. In fact, we've never found one that could so far in all the studies we've done, which have been tens of thousands, right, of
Although
individuals.
the way I describe it to people too is when I explain it, because I can physically show them what I've done to myself, right? And I think one
Yeah,
of the reasons you get scarring is because of all of the bacteria that's growing in your wound as it's trying to heal. And the silver must kill the bacteria because there's almost virtually no scarring when you
I
use the
think
silver
the
product.
other big deal there is that the silver helps promote, and it might be the resonant frequency, but silver helps promote new clean tissue, not scar tissue. And so that's when you look at those extreme cases. So this is a guy who had gas blow up in his face. And if you look on day one in the hospital, the hospital doctors told him, they said, look, you're going to have to come to the conclusion you will never look the same. And what you're seeing is him. And while he was in the hospital, they actually said to him, we want you to use some meta honey. And he said, okay. But he said, first, I'm going to use this SilverCeuticals gel. So he used that and the meta honey after, but only while he was in the hospital. And I think he was released on day 3. So these other pictures, as you can see, the amazing part is that the Nano-Silver helped him heal up all that tissue with no striated scar tissue, right? In 14 days. It completely regrew all that tissue.
It's amazing.
And there was no shiny tissue that's non-elastic like you would normally see with a burn, especially a severe burn. But this guy is a nurse practitioner himself. And so he knew that it worked. He'd used it with a lot of people. He runs an emergency center that's his own. And so he already knew about it and had been utilizing it for a number of years. So when it happened to him, he said, this is what I'm going to do. And he did it. And you can see the results. In 14 days, all the swelling is gone. Almost all the tissue is completely healed. And there's none of it, no striated scar tissue at all.
That's
So,
amazing, though. It really is amazing.
yeah, I mean, the healing is stunning. And so we do that sort of thing a lot. We can in fact do it in a number of places where we have direct approvals to be able to make claims and utilize
Right.
it in hospital systems. In fact, I think we just got another approval to bring it into parts of Africa as well. The gel as a healing agent. So
Oh, terrific. No, it's just
yeah,
it's just an amazing technology. It really is. Um, I I was talking earlier about my asthma stuff being everywhere, all my asthma drugs everywhere. Now I have my silver everywhere, and I can't wait for you to bring it out in little packets because I really want to get all my cycling friends to have it on their bikes. It should be the official recovery gel for the Tour de France and all the major bike races for all the crashes that they have. In
I
my
think yeah, I think all the cuts, scrapes. We've been using it on turf burns in like the NFL and a lot of the high school and college areas, and works amazingly well. So
and
we've all
it's very soothing when you put it on.
yeah,
Just
it
very
feels
soothing.
cold.
Yeah.
It feels cold. It takes out the inflammation, which helps reduce the pain and anguish that you have, and it just soothes the wound and does it quickly.
Yeah. No stinging. Just get it on there.
Yep,
That's why I
exactly.
carry it. I bring it with me on my bike because if I have a crash, I can just put it on immediately. I don't care if my wound is dirty. I'll just put the silver on so that it's working right away. And when I get home, then I can wash and take care of the wound properly, the lacerations or whatever, and um, reapply it. But yeah,
Yeah, so I just sent 10 tubes of that gel with a group of doctors that go do surgeries in Africa, and they have a couple centers they go to twice a year. And he said, "We want to try your gel," and I said, "Okay." So I sent him with 10 tubes. He said they did 143 surgeries in 6 days. He said, we usually leave day 7 to fight all the secondary infections because he said there's usually a lot of secondary infections. So this guy's a plastic surgeon. I said, so what kind of surgeries were you doing? He said, you name it, we did it. It was incredible. And so he said, we always save day 7 to fight all the secondary infections because it's really dirty place. It's not very sterile and it's tough, because you're doing these surgeries, you're helping the people, but they don't
Well,
live in a clean environment.
Not just in Africa. Hospitals here are
Yeah,
rife with
some nasty bugs.
nasty bugs.
Anyway, and like in Canada, we have direct claims, right, to kill MRSA and VRE and
Okay,
the nastiness of
on
the
MRSA,
drug
I wanted to
resistant
ask you this question earlier. Okay, so I recall seeing a chart where a number of the different, MRSA and a different bunch of different viruses and whatever were listed, and the amount of time that normally whatever regular pharmaceutical or other type of product has been used prior to silver, how effective they are, how long they take to work. And it just blew me away when I saw MRSA like 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
what was the other drug? The drug that they typically use?
Well, I don't think we throw any stones here, but there's a number of them that would take 24 and lots of them. The reason why it's called MRSA is it's a methicillin resistant Staph aureus. So most drugs won't even touch it.
Right.
Most things cannot even inhibit its growth. If you look at some of the over-the-counter antibacterials, they can't touch it.
They can't touch it.
But in this case, the Nano-Silver eliminates it quickly, starts eliminating within seconds, and has it pretty much all eliminated within 10, 15 minutes.
Right.
So where other people would end up with secondary infections. In fact, to finish off the African thing, the doctor said to me, he said, I don't know what that crap is that you guys have, but he said, it's stunning. He said, on day 7, instead of fighting secondary infections, we were actually pulling stitches because it had already healed closed. So he said, we're removing stitches instead of fighting secondary infections. He said, we had none. And I said, yeah, the cool part is, I think we just got approved in parts of Africa with the claims to be able to use it for wound care. So we'll keep working at it. We'll keep getting more and more approvals, and we'll be able to help a lot more people.
Okay, well, I got a couple of last quick questions here before we go. What I want to do is I'm going to bring up this image I have here of your product line, and just to quickly recap the products for our viewers here. So this is the line of products that you have, and we haven't talked about the immune gummies yet, but you can see the mister in the background. That's wait, over here. There's the mister, and
Yep.
I love that mister. I can't wait to try that mister out. If it'll work
It
as
is.
good as my nebulizer, I mean, boy, nebulizer
It
was over
puts out
100
a
bucks.
fine mist. You can use it on your face, or you can use it to rinse out your sinuses. It's easy enough. You can take it on the plane with you. It's really easy to use it. You
Right.
refill it with the bulk liquid, right? So let's just start on the edge. So you have the gummies. One of the problems we looked at was it's hard to get a kid to take vitamins. It's hard to get a kid to use the Nano-Silver or want to use it. So what we found is that if we made it into a great tasting gummy, we could get all the things in we thought were the key components to keeping the kid healthy.
Right.
So we're talking about vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry juice, which is the number one medicinal juice, and then the Nano-Silver. All of that in a gummy. I think they only have about 2 grams of added sugar. Most of the 10 calories that's in each one of them is actually from the juice from the elderberry. But they taste amazingly good. Kids love them. They ask for them. And I have a lot of adults that order those. In fact, I got hit so hard We figured that we had a 4 month supply for the next 4 months. A bunch of influencers found out about that product, tried it, put it out, and we sold out of them in like 2 weeks. So I'll have them back in. It looks like about the end of January. But if you pull up the products, so we have the liquids, we have the facial serum. You see it on the bottom, the nasal spray. We have the liquids in both 8 ounce and 16 ounce. Then you have the gel.
Oh, hang on a
You have
sec,
the
though. Hang on. You've got a topical product here, right? So where are we here? This one here.
Yep.
It says
Yep.
topical.
So we
What's the
have the
difference between
topical.
that and the silver gel?
Okay, so the topical is a liquid,
Okay.
and we use it for a facial product, like a facial toner. And you can also put it on with the mister. So a lot of women, before they put the serum on, will get their face wet with the liquid silver, and then the serum will pull that in. The hyaluronic acid will hold about 1,000 times its weight in moisture in the skin, helping to keep the skin moist. And in this case, it gives the skin a first line defense because the moisture that it's bringing in is actually the Nano-Silver. And so that liquid with the hyaluronic acid is in the outside layers of the skin, and it lasts about all day there,
Right.
before it scratches or washes out or dries. But
Can you also use the facial serum underneath makeup?
you can. You really want to use it as the first thing that you put on.
Right.
So the reason why is because it protects you. Now, makeup, especially new makeup, is becoming more and more healthy. And as they add nutrient value into that, it tends to grow problem bugs in a big way. So they either have to fill it full of things that will kill those bugs, right? Preservatives, and most of those are pretty nasty, or they have to give you very short periods of time you can use it before you have to throw it away.
Right.
In this case, the Nano-Silver itself provides a base layer of protection underneath the skin, or underneath the makeup, better said, underneath the makeup, to help protect you from the makeup that you're using. And so it works really well. It works fast, helps eliminate the fine lines and wrinkles. And in Canada, again, I know we beat that horse a bit, but in Canada, we can actually make direct claims on that product for those of your clients who are in Canada. But we can make direct claims to heal acne and eczema and all those types of things. In the US, we say helps promote natural healing, which it does in a big way.
Right.
So that's the topical version you just use to fill up your mister, and you can utilize it on your face.
Well,
And then you can,
I brought that up because I read a study years ago. I think it was out of the UK. In that study, they determined that the average woman wearing an average amount of makeup on a daily basis absorbs over 5 pounds of very toxic chemicals a year, cancer causing and otherwise.
wow.
The skin is the biggest organ, right? Skin absorbs. I mean, you put all that, I mean, like the lead in the lipstick and the red lipstick and that kind of thing, right? So, 5 pounds absorbed into the skin over the course of over a year. So,
Well, and if you make
that's
your
why I asked
skin
about
much
using
more,
that as a base layer. So at least you got a level of protection for something.
yeah, and also if you heal up your tissue, help naturally heal that tissue, as well as get rid of the fine lines and wrinkles and stuff. We put a bunch of knowledge of peptides in there, so collagen peptides, and those nanopeptides go into the skin, and they're building blocks for helping to reduce the blemishes and stuff. So you actually need a lot less makeup because of the fact that your natural tissue is so beautiful, and you just end up not needing a lot of stuff on it. I have
Right.
one influencer who's a makeup artist. That's her thing. And she came back and she said, man, my face is completely different. She said she'd been using it for a couple months, and she said she loves makeup, but she didn't have to use a lot of the same stuff.
Right.
because of the fact she wasn't covering up stuff. She didn't have to do the cover up. She just had to make it look her skin better.
Right.
And so that's a big deal. Yeah.
Okay. Question. You've got two versions of the liquid. You've got 10 parts per million and 32 parts per million. Difference between the two for applications?
Um, yeah. So what you have is a regular and extra strength product. The 10 ppm is the workhorse product. And most of the major studies we have, the things like, the studies you can request, like malaria and all the different viral studies and all of that is based off the 10 ppm liquid. That's what was studied in those clinical trials. The 32 ppm, everybody wants an extra strength. I love having an extra strength. And in the human ingestion studies that were done in cooperation with the FDA, that new drug study, both those products, both the 10 and 32, were tested for safety, and both were found at an ounce a day to be completely safe for everyday human use. And so when you look at those, both the 10 and 32, regular and extra strength, are both safe for human ingestion every day. And if I'm feeling, down under the weather, like if something's trying to get me, I'll use the 32. Most of the time I use the 10 and I have no problem with that.
I have a question about Candida. I asked this earlier. We know, that it kills Candida. You know that it can be used vaginally to do that. My mother actually passed away several years ago. She had a fatal yeast infection of her body, her whole body. If you drink the silver, would that have an impact on that type of Candida?
Okay, so the nastiest form of Candida is a new bug that hit the world a few years ago, and it started spreading through elderly care. And then it went into hospitals, and now it's out in the general public. But if you look it up, it's a heinous bug called Candida auris.
That's probably what
So
she had. Yeah, I think that's what she
most
had.
most regular Candida infections are problematic, but they won't kill you. And most of those are called Candida albicans.
Right.
But this one, Candida auris, it kills about I think 50 to 70% of the people who get it.
Yeah.
It's hard to diagnose, but the good news is we actually have direct test work against that pathogen. If you want copies, again, just ask us, and we're
Please.
happy to
Yeah.
give it to
I
you.
want to get that information.
But we'll just say here that it doesn't seem to be a problem for the Nano-Silver. Even the really nasty versions, I have hard data. You can request the data and you can see the results. But the answer is you just really don't need to worry about it all that much.
Right.
To help promote natural healing and to help work with your body's immune system to function at a higher level seems to work exceedingly well. And we back that up with a lot of test data where people get before and after blood tests and stuff, so we can look at numbers. It makes it pretty easy for them because they can see it either works or it doesn't if you're looking at the numbers, right?
Right.
It's not a I feel better call. It's an actual, hey, these are numbers. And so it makes it pretty easy to be able to see the difference in those. So if you pull back that picture, the one thing we haven't talked about there on the end is that toothpaste. So there's a cinnamon, that's red, a mint, that's a green, and the bubblegum berry. So the bubblegum berry, I thought we'd make that for the kids. I brushed my teeth. Like 2 hours later, I was like, my mouth still tastes good. I was stunned.
Yeah. I've
And so
already used up all my bubble gum.
I
I'm on
used
the
that
cinnamon
one.
now.
So I love that one. But if you want to see that our tech works, right, it's really easy. Brush your teeth at night, spit it out, but don't wash it out. Leave it in.
Right.
And unless you're on a CPAP, when you wake up in the morning, your mouth's squeaky
Yeah.
clean.
See, that's another reason why you want a toothpaste that has no fluoride in it.
Exactly.
If you
It's
have a
not poison.
if you're using fluoride toothpaste, man, you got to rinse your mouth out. You cannot be swallowing that stuff. Um,
Yeah, it says on the back
but
of
this,
those commercial toothpaste, you look at the back and it says poisonous.
yeah.
If you swallow, call poison control.
Hmm.
I had a guy tell me, he said, but I don't swallow it. I said, really? Did you taste the mint? He said, of course I tasted the mint. I said, do you know where your taste buds are? I said, dude, you swallowed it. He said, only a little bit. And I said, oh, a little bit of poison every day. Good for you.
That's right.
He said,
Two or three
can you
times a
see
day
a
for
point?
365 days a year.
And I said, I'm more worried about your kids. Are they swallowed it? Do they know that that's not to be swallowed? And I said, in this case, this toothpaste is a who's who list of great things.
Yeah.
You know, I have some friends that are really diehard in the nutrition field, and they're hard to please, but they all love that toothpaste. One, it works. Two, there's scientific backing. I have published peer reviewed studies from Texas Tech School of Med on it. And one of the guys said to me, why would you work with Texas Tech School of Med? I said, wrong question. And he said, so what's the right question? I said, the right question is, why would 5 different divisions of a major med school actually work with us? We're nobody. Why would they work with us? And he said, yeah, what's the answer to that? And I said, because the products work. We have a lot of partners in India and the US, and we all work together on these things. And when you look at the data that comes out of those, it's stunning data. It's peer reviewed, published, tier one science, and it shows that we can break the biofilms. We can
Right.
keep that stuff from doing damage to your mouth and your gums. And people know in a hurry. I had one guy that was on the net and he said, I hate the taste of this. And that was strange because everybody loves the taste. But one guy said, nope, I gave it a 1 because I didn't like the taste. And then he came back a month later and he said, okay, I have to give it a 4. He said, I still don't like the taste, but he said, I went to my dentist and my dentist says, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever you're doing, you keep doing it because your gums have never looked like this before.
Right.
He said, it's not bleeding. It's not infected. It's not all red and inflamed. He said, it looks really good. So he said, I'm giving it a 4. He said, I still won't give it a 5, which most everybody does because they
Well,
love it.
that's
But
that
when
you bring. Well, you bring up a good point because as we age, our gums recede.
yeah. And also your teeth
Yeah.
get thinner. And as they
Yes.
get thinner, they get yellower because underneath your teeth, you have what's called dentin, and dentin is yellow. So as your teeth get thinner, you see more of the dentin, which makes them yellow. It's not that they're stained yellow, it's just they're
Right.
thinner. So as you help remineralize those teeth with the coral calcium and the xylitol that's in there, then they get whiter. And you can get 2 shades whiter in as little as a month or two. And you do it by remineralizing your teeth, not by dyeing it or coloring it or bleaching it some sort of white with like
Right.
hydrogen peroxide or something like that, which would make your teeth sensitive. And in this case, by making them thicker, it'd make them less sensitive.
Right. Well, I just think it's a fantastic product line, and I know we got more. We're going to be doing more shows on this. I want to do a deep dive into the eczema product when you bring that out, and send me the science, your studies, get me all the information. I just want to keep promoting it. I should point out on TotalHealthMagazine.com on the website, our website, the article. Don't forget, you can share this article. Hang on, I'm bringing it up here. It's about time we take care of our own. And that's the theme for 2025 here at Total Health Magazine. If we don't take care of our own health, we can't expect anybody else to, right? And certainly with what's going on in California and British Columbia and different regions of different countries, you got to take charge. You got to start making some decisions of your own. And I think that
I
adding
agree.
silver to your medicine chest, to your daily use, whether it's toothpaste, whether it's the silver gel, whether it's whatever. Just do it. I am the case study for how great this product works. All right. So thanks again, Keith. Really appreciate your time. That's it for this edition of Total Health Magazine on Total Health Television. I'm John Barson. Stay healthy.